Hello everyone, and welcome to another very special episode. She Scores Bangers is teaming up with the Northern Super League over the next few weeks to bring you exclusive interviews with players and others that are gearing up for their inaugural season, set to kick off on April 16th. The NSL, founded by former Canada International Diana Matheson, is Canada's first ever professional women's soccer league, with 6 clubs based in Halifax, Calgary, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. You can catch the action on CBC, TSN, and other online streaming platforms. Today's guest scores more goals than she can count, setting some records at the clubs she's been at, including her time at the University of Memphis. Coming into the NSL with a wealth of experience, having spent her career across Europe in Denmark, Germany, Sweden, Turkey, France, and Iceland, she represented Canada at the senior level as well as across multiple youth levels. Out of Brampton, Ontario, she's going to be representing the Halifax Tides and looking to hit the net for them. It's none other than Christabel Oduro. Christabel, it's a pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Doing very well. A lot to talk about. I think when we look at your resume, you've been playing soccer for quite some time. It feels like from the moment you got up on your feet, you had a ball in between your feet. So
Yeah,
tell me a little bit about kind of when did you start playing soccer and how you fell in love with the game?
I started playing when I was 7 years old, so I know that's a little older than like the usual kids, I guess, around that time. My brother played, so at that age, I was like, "Oh, what's Sam doing? Like, I want to do what he's doing." And he played soccer, and then like my parents put me in, and I did not like it though at all. I was like,
Oh,
"This is the worst." So it took me a little bit to like get into it. That first indoor season, I was like, man, this absolutely stinks. And I scored one goal, and that was like the highlight of my opening year. And the following year, actually, like I was like, okay, actually, I'm good at this. Like it was, I believe it was a summer season. I went outdoors, and I was like way better. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. And I just kept playing.
so indoors, outdoors was the main difference here.
Yeah, exactly.
And did you dabble around with different sports or you kind of
Oh
just
yeah, definitely.
followed your brother?
When I did follow my brother. Like that is the theme. Um, when I was like 11 or 12, actually, I think I was 12. I quit playing soccer. I was like, "Ugh, I'm over it." I had just left one of my first team I ever played for, and like I was like, oh, I'm not playing that much. Like I'm kind of over it. Let me try something different. So I went to play basketball, house league basketball. It was really fun. But I missed the big team atmosphere of like soccer. And like I was like, I was not bad at it. Maybe I started to change teams. So I just ended up doing that. But yeah, I did play soccer or basketball, sorry. Um, like in a league. And then high school, it's like high school basketball, high school volleyball, cross country, short stint.
Hmm.
And yeah, the stuff like that.
So what reeled you back? What made you come back and for you to say, actually, this is something I would like to explore pursuing because that's exactly what you did after high school by going over to Memphis.
Honestly, I was just like, I am much better at soccer. I'm way better at soccer. I was pretty good at basketball. Like I actually got offered to play in like some rep teams back then, but I was just like,
Mm.
it's kind of boring. Like it's fun, but I prefer soccer.
What position did you play on the court?
I'm 5'3", so there's only one position for me to play. That's point guard.
Do you play around with basketball or and now your time is just filled up with soccer?
Now it's just pretty much soccer. But I when I moved to Halifax, I was thinking like, oh, if I can like get into some like in a gym by myself, I'd just shoot around a bit. I don't think I'm ready to go like 5v5 or anything just yet. Got to work on my jumper again. But yeah, I'm down to play basketball again, just like shoot around and stuff.
That's something you could bring into the Tides locker room. A little bit of a
Yeah,
showdown basketball.
hopefully. I mean, I feel like if you're playing soccer, like most girls are decent at basketball. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
if we're not gonna score, like we're just gonna play good defense and get a lot of steals. So
I hope the Tides are listening. Maybe we need to be bringing in basketball into preseason to mix it up a little bit.
yeah,
Uh,
that'd be cool.
you went over to Memphis, and I think from the numbers and seeing you play, it looked like you had a pretty fun, successful time. And during that time, you're also representing Canada at the youth stages. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not only were you clearly really good at soccer, but it looked like you were finding some sort of wave and momentum to jump on. Talk to me a little bit about that and just sort of being involved in the international setup.
Yeah, it was really cool. I This is my sophomore year of university, so that's second year for the Canadians out there. Um, I just got the call to represent Canada for the U20s. We had a CONCACAF in Panama. We did quite well. We ended up losing to the US in the finals 2-1. We were up, and I think they got us in the 74th minute to tie it, and then like something late at the end. So it was a little heartbreaking, but we qualified for the World Cup anyway, so it wasn't that bad. And then our World Cup was in Japan. It was really cool, really really cool.
Being at a young age, away from family, being involved
Mhm.
in these international setups, was it daunting? Was it enjoyable? Did you kind of miss it? Like, sort of what was the vibes, let's say, around that?
It wasn't that difficult because by that time I'd been in Memphis already, and I was a little younger coming into college. I have a late birthday, so I think I was like I might have been 16 at the time still. Um, but no, it was only kind of daunting in terms of like the competition because like you don't know how good they are, how bad they are. Like maybe like some countries like not necessarily like good in your mind. You're thinking they're not good, but they're actually like they. This is not a joke. You're playing for your country, so you
Mm.
don't have to be good, but you're going to play very hard. And in that sense, it makes the game more difficult. Um, but I wouldn't say it wasn't really that daunting for me. I don't know why. It's just kind of like just go out there and just work hard and just be within the moment. We played in front of some really big crowds though because it was Japan. We
Hmm.
had a friendly with them, had about 9,000 people, so that was like wild. That was my first experience of like a proper big game outside of like college. I think we had maybe the most at one point, maybe 3,500 at a game, and that felt like crazy at the time, but 9,000 was wild.
I think your attitude talking about that kind of reflects how you play on the pitch, pretty much just like strong-minded, pretty
Mm-hmm.
focused on the goal, on the ball, and you play hard. Like I think that's something that I think NSL fans should be looking for,
Mm-hmm.
is how hard you play on the ball. And so you ride on this successful wave of momentum. You look around, you want to go professional, but there's no professional league here in
Mm-hmm.
Canada. What was that sort of process of navigating that next step?
By that time, I was on my way to play in the old W League. I don't know if you remember what that is, but I played with Ottawa. And I'd met somebody from the US and she just connected me with her agent. And then he kind of started working for me. But when I was still in college, I think I was on some draft boards to get drafted, but obviously didn't happen, which is like fine, whatever. And like it didn't happen. So I wasn't quite sure what to do, I guess. One of my friends hooked me up with one of her agents before I ended up committing to the one that ended up getting me to Denmark. And I went on trial in Germany for like a week to 10 days with her, and I did make the team. But I think at that time I'd been away from home for so long, and I had a 2-year-old niece at the time. I had missed like a good portion of her life at that time,
Mhm.
and I had a 5-year-old niece. I was like, I just want to go home and hang out with my family a little bit. So I did that the first like half of like when I finished college. And ended up going to Denmark in January.
Yeah, you played a little bit for Ottawa, for Toronto as well, back when that league was up and rolling.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's interesting. You were born and raised in Brampton, Ottawa, Toronto, all kind of within the same region. Ottawa a little further away, and now
Yeah.
you're all the way in Halifax. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But it looked like like you mentioned, you kind of, I mean, missed home and wanted to be around home.
Mhm.
But it's funny you say that because you went on to have a pretty long journey in Europe. You highlighted Denmark, Germany, Sweden, Iceland, Turkey, France. I mean, it's a pretty big list, and I
Yeah.
think for many, you got to visit a lot of different cities.
Mhm.
Kind of tell me that the conflict of yes, you're living abroad, looking at really different cool cities in Europe, but there's that sense of I just want to play home professionally.
At the time, because like playing at home was not even in my radar because it just wasn't a thing. You knew once you're done college, you're either going to play in the US or you're going to Europe. Like wasn't in my radar at all. So while the times like I was away from home, I was just like, yeah, like where am I going next in Europe? Or like, am I going to stay on this team in Europe? Like Canada wasn't even like my purview whatsoever. So
Mhm.
for me, it wasn't like, oh, I miss home. I want to play home. It's just kind of like, where am I going to go next? It's going to kind of like fulfill my soccer junkie heart and like, oh, I played in Germany. Oh, I played against Wolfsburg. Oh, I played against like Marseille. And it's just like I played against Fenerbahce. Like things like that is like that fed my soul as a footballer that like really loves the game, right? So for me, unfortunately, like Canada wasn't on my radar because growing up, like it was never gonna be a thing from what I knew to understand at the time. So when this came about, I was like shocked, genuinely shocked. Um, I don't put it past like D Math and Sinky and Steph and them. Like they really put on for us, and I'm extremely appreciative for them because like I'm not done playing yet, and like they've given me this opportunity along with all the sponsors that went behind the scenes to like get out and play in Canada for the it's going to be the first time.
Hmm.
So
I think it's interesting because you're not the first player that says that, with the fact that going to play in Canada didn't even cross my mind because that setup didn't exist. And
mhm.
we've long heard rumblings from former players, current players, I mean, just athletes within and around the game saying that Canada needed a league. And, we're a little late to the party, but at
Mhm.
least we're joining the party. Um,
Yeah.
Tides come calling. How did that opportunity materialize?
I honestly, it kind of was by chance. A friend of mine, like she gave me the information for the sporting director here, Amit, and I was like, I wasn't quite sure what I was gonna do, like after France and stuff. I did want to stay in Europe. One thing led to another, didn't happen. Like such is life. We continue on. We move. Then I ended up just like talking to him a little bit before, and I was like, maybe this is something I want to do. I'm not sure. Like I thought about it, whatever, and I slept on it, and I just kind of like let it go, whatever. And I like moved to Turkey very, very quickly, just like I just wanted to play. Right? I was like, I cannot be stopping right now. I need to play.
Mhm.
And then kind of popped up in my head again later on. I was like, let's just go with it. Why not? Right. So now I'm here, Halifax,
What
freezing
do you
cold.
it's freezing cold. That's probably one thing that you don't miss having to be kind of at home playing in those conditions. Does it get this cold in other countries? I assume Sweden.
Sweden was pretty cold. Iceland was pretty cold. It's very windy, so it's like cold in that sense. Definitely in Iceland, it was like crazy windy at times. So like that's how it felt cold. The
Mm.
summers are kind of cooler, but I don't know, something's going on this week and it's ice out there. It's crazy.
I would agree. I feel like Canada is experiencing a pretty harsh winter
Yeah,
this year,
yeah,
which is obviously not too fun for those really in cooler conditions like Halifax, like you mentioned.
yeah.
There's a lot to be looking forward to, but I want to hear what you're most looking forward to with kicking things with Halifax and Tides. It's a new setup, obviously a new league, so much to look forward to. But from your perspective, what are you most excited about?
I think the competition and the level. It's impossible to tell how it's going to be because we're putting together like a bunch of like Canadians and some foreigners and stuff like that. Like I have some friends across the league right now, and I'm just like I know they're good. Like I played with them, I play against them. Like I know they're really good, and it's like, but I also know a ton of Canadians are super good, right? So I'm just interested to see like how the teams gel and mesh and like what the skill level is going to be. If we can like immediately jump up and be like I don't know, like a top 10 league in the world. I don't want to go crazy and say top three, like top, but I think we could be top 10. I genuinely believe that.
I think certainly the standard that the league is launching with when it comes to the level of players, Canadians, like you mentioned, those coming from outside of Canada. I think fans are probably going to be a little surprised with how high the standard is from the inaugural season. And like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, hey, top 10 in the next few years, top three perhaps,
Yeah.
and a few more. I think it's exciting. But this launch of the NSL is historic, and I think history and just the way the countdown is working, there's a lot of excitement and I think a lot of joy
Mm-hmm.
around it. From somebody who said that they'd never even considered playing at home because that setup never existed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how much excitement do you have, and again, happiness knowing that you are part of this historic event?
Wow. It, I don't even know if I know how to explain it. It just feels like you're like somebody's role model kind of overnight. And it's like, whoa, like this is a lot for me. I keep telling people like I'm just very basic girl. Like don't ask me for an autograph. We know each other. Like stop it. Um, and it's crazy because it just feels so surreal and like I said, like it almost like we're like having training the other day, and I was looking around. I was like, is this like a pro league? Like, is this actually a thing, or am I just like kicking around with some people I just met? So I'm just excited to just be myself, and hopefully people can get on board with someone like me, because I like to think I'm just like run of the mill, hardworking, like Ghanaian Canadian girl that just gonna like work her tail off and just kind of be like the common person's player, if you will.
Hmm. I
So
think a lot of fans are probably very happy to hear that now.
yeah.
Likely they'll be asking for autographs, but that's something to look forward to. But I'm really glad I'm glad you brought up your background
Yeah.
because I think Canada is a very diverse country. I think it's exciting to see some of these rosters fill up with diverse individuals because it's a league that's going to represent Canada. Tell me about the pride you feel representing the Ghanaian diaspora across Canada, and being able to be a face of that.
Ton of pride. That's like my parents, they were born in Ghana. My oldest sister was born in Ghana, and when we lost in the 2010 World Cup, like I was sad. So I've always been very proud of my heritage, and I know there's a bunch of Ghanaian people playing out there, like all over the world, and I want them to know, like, yo, like we're out here. Let's be proud of who we are. Yeah, we might be like Dutch Ghanaian, German Ghanaian, Canadian Ghanaian, whatever. Let's just let's put our culture out there for everyone, and just like flaunt our stuff a little bit, because we're out here too, right? So I'm very excited to say like I'm a Ghanaian Canadian, and just try to inspire the next generation of Ghanaians out there.
Hmm. I feel like I must ask. You've been to a lot of different countries, back and forth sometimes, different spells.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you come from a very rich background. How many languages do you speak?
Oh, only English.
Only English. Do you
I
like?
I am terrible, terrible Ghanaian for that. I understand it though perfectly. My
Okay.
mom will speak to me in Tree, like our dialect, and I'll just respond in English. Like, so I'm
Hey.
not very bad. I don't even think I can learn a language at this point. Like, I'm too old, but like I could say some words, but like I could speak it, but I really have to think about what I'm saying, and
Mhm.
then I just give up and speak English because it's easier
I mean,
for
never too
me. Like,
old
yeah,
to learn a language. Learning languages is pretty tough. It's not everybody's cup of tea, which
yeah,
is fine. But I think hopefully now we'll have a few fans surprising you, speaking to you in your dialect, and you're like, wait a minute, I recognize that, and I hear you, and I see you there.
yeah.
But I think that's really exciting with the diversity of the players and the rosters. What's your favorite Ghanaian dish? I think that's something I want to explore now.
Oof. Myself, let's see. I love jollof rice. Our jollof rice is the best jollof rice, in case you didn't know. Now you know. Um, I really love, like, we call it inquine. So it's like a soup. Very, very good. Got my mom's stew, that's very good as well. But I think if I had to say only one dish, like if I'm about to go to jail for the next 100 years or so, give me a good plate of jollof rice, and we're good to go.
I feel like that should be a go-to meal for those going
Mm-hmm.
out to hang out to watch some Tide games. Any good recommendations here in the Brampton, Toronto area, perhaps for AFC Toronto fans, maybe when you're visiting?
Or like Ghanaian food, or just food in general.
Ghanaian food, let's hear it.
Man, I don't even know. I don't know of any Ghanaian restaurants. If you want to come to my house, you have to message me. That is the best meal you're gonna get in your life. Shout out my mom.
Well, Christabel's mom might be busy making stews for some NSL fans in the near future. Maybe that's something the city needs to get on.
Yeah,
Christabel, I really appreciate you joining me here today. I think myself and many are looking forward to see you kicking it off with the Tides and hopefully making some waves over in Halifax.
love that. The waves, that's cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No worries.